Hi there. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent Training. Welcome to our Friday live question and answer class, where you can ask your questions about English pronunciation, intonation, accent, anything that can help you to improve your overall communication in American English. We've been covering a lot of specific words in our Word of the Day series, and thank you so much to those of you who have given me suggestions for words to cover. I am working my way through the full list, so it may be a little while before you see your word. You can certainly ask your questions today if you're in a hurry to get some help on your word, and please be patient as I work my way through. At the start of class today, I would like to talk a little bit about some of the challenging vowel sounds in American English, and I want to use some words to demonstrate a few things about these vowels. So we'll talk about this briefly. Feel free to put your questions in the chat at any time, and I'll begin answering them as those start coming in as well. So looking at, we have three vowels that occur in English that are less frequent in some of the other languages. So many times if there's a sound in English that you don't have in your native language or is not quite the same in your native language, it can be hard to hear these sounds as well as hard to produce them. These vowels are I, and A, and what they all have in common is that they're called front vowels and they're also called lax vowels. So the I vowel, like in bit and bid, is the high lax front vowel. And so by that, I mean my tongue is high, my mouth is pretty closed. When I say I, my jaw is not very open, and my tongue needs to be a little bit more relaxed. Versus we have the E vowel that is in a word like beat or bead, where my tongue is more tense. And so a lot of languages will have this vowel, but not necessarily this vowel. So if you struggle with things like leave versus live, then this is one of the vowel. This is the vowel to work on. We also have the vowel, like in bet and bed. So the difference between bit and bet is primarily that my mouth is slightly more open, so my tongue is a little bit lower for the vowel. So that's called a central vowel. This one is a high front. This one is central. And then lastly, we have the bat vowel, the a vowel, like in bat and bad, and that's the most open of the front vowels. So we might call that open, an open front vowel. So why I have these vowels here is to kind of give you that help of noticing if you can start to feel the placement for the vowels, bit, bet, bat, that all three of those need to be distinct from each other and that you may have a tendency to mix these up a little bit and may be challenging to hear them and say them. I do have some specific videos for each of these vowels to help you learn which words they're in, help you to say them more easily. And then I also wanted to talk about that a strategy that people will use is to say these vowels quickly, to do them with a short duration. So for example, if they're trying to say a word like live, and they know that they might have a tendency to say it more with the E vowel, like leave. What I'll hear people do is they'll say leave, and then they'll try to say it again shorter to say live, but it ends up sounding like leave. So they don't change the vowel, they just go shorter. And that technique doesn't work. You actually need to have the same length of vowel, but a different vowel sound. So leave and live need to be two distinct sounds. Now, it is true that the I vowel is a little bit shorter in duration than the E vowel, but what I think is confusing is when you learn with spelling, they'll talk about long and short vowels, long E, short A, etc. I think that's very confusing. I think it's easier to learn the symbols and anchor points for the sounds. So that's the way I teach vowel sounds. Where the length matters is that when I have a voiced sound like a D, then I'm going to hold the vowel sound longer. And when I have a voiceless sound like a T, I hold the vowel a little shorter. So the difference between bit and bid, yes, there's the voicing difference, but bit is shorter and bid is longer. Bet and bed, I want bed longer, and bat and bad. I want bad longer. And so the length of the vowel is dependent on the context for the word. So this is kind of a lot of information about a lot of different patterns. My idea was to give you mostly some tips about not trying to just go short on these lax vowels, but rather to really learn to be able to hear that sound and make the difference, because I do need a different vowel length depending on what word I'm saying, and not necessarily depending on what the vowel sound is. Hi, Dana. Nice to see you. So do feel free to ask your questions. I was kind of wanting to cover that information. I'm trying to give you a little bit of insight and topic for each of our classes, so that if you're someone who's been watching regularly and attending class, I want you to be able to accumulate a little bit of information that might be useful just generally speaking when it comes to English pronunciation. Okay, so we have a request for the word luxurious. Hi, nice to see you. Let's take a look at that. I believe I covered luxurious. I know I did luxury. I think I did luxury and luxurious in a word of the day class. So I'm going to cover it here for you. And then what I've also been doing lately is after class, I go back and watch through the video and I put timestamps in so you can see which words I covered and at what time. And then I'll also add in links for if there is a word of the day video for your word or a sound pattern that you might find helpful. I'll write more information here so you can come back after class and get some more details. So for luxurious, the stress is on the zh syllable. The first syllable has vowel schwa. It sounds like la. And then this X says the GZ sound, luxure. Actually, the G-zh sound. So sometimes I write that with, it's going to look like this in the IPA, this symbol. I write it with the letter ZH because it's like the SH sound, shh, but my voice is on, zh, luxure, luxurious. The UR just says so we have the vowel, and then we have an E and an us. Luxurious. So I go into more detail in my video word of the day about luxury versus luxurious and talking about these tricky sounds. That's typically what's most challenging in that word. Thank you for that request. We have a question about the different pronunciation between turtle and tortoise. Okay, so for turtle, we have an vowel. So even though I spell that with UR, like in luxurious, it's just the sound. And what we Americans do when they say turtle, is that they turn this T into a flap. So it's more like a D. So it sounds like turtle. This LE is a dark syllabic L. So there's kind of a little tiny hidden schwa in there, like an sound. But mostly I go right from my flap to my L. Dull, turtle. This is something that we do in words like little, Seattle, bottle. Gets asked about a lot because it's challenging. So I do have a video for syllabic L that can help you do those flap T's into the syllabic L like turtle. And then for tortoise, how do we spell tortoise? Let me double check. Tortoise. Tortoise. We use a flap here as well, but it has the OR letters and actually the OR sound. So oftentimes the letters OR will actually say the ER sound, like in work and word, but sometimes they do say OR, like in tortoise. So we have tor, and then this whole section is just a schwa and an S, us, tortoise. So it looks like tortoise or something, which probably comes from the French, but in American English, tortoise. Yes, thank you. So a request for the word meritocracy. I'm trying to figure out if I say meritocracy or meritocracy. I think I say meritocracy. So we do a true T in this word, meritocracy. So Letters ER in this word don't say the sound. They have the air vowel, the air diphthong. I did just recently do a video talking about a lot of words with air and how they're spelled, so you can check that out on the channel. So mare, just like the word mare, like a female horse, merit. So in the word merit, I wouldn't say the T. I would use a stop T, merit, where I go up to say the T, but I don't release it. But in meritocracy, I think that T is at the start of the ta syllable, meritocracy. So that's the stress syllable. When that happens, the T acts like it's at the beginning of a word, which means we say a true T, regular T, where we have a puff of air, t. So I have ta, letter O says vowel ah in this word, merita, and then this letter A says vowel schwa, like an meritocracy. The CY says tense E and the S sound. So meritocracy. That's a good word and not easy. There's a lot of letters that the O says ah, the A says and the E says air. So go figure. As you probably know, if you've been watching my channel and videos and coming to class for a while, I often talk about how spelling can be really misleading and doesn't always help us. So learning about vowel sounds and symbols is definitely very useful. Okay, so a request for the word memorable. Two ways for this word. So what I was just saying now was memorable, where I was doing 4 syllables. First syllable stress, mem. The OR, this is one of our ER examples. OR says memor, bull. There's our dark syllabic L again, memorable. Or Americans will also reduce it, take this vowel out and say it more like memorable. Memorable, in either case, first syllable stress. So either it was a memorable experience or a memorable experience. I think you'll hear this one quite a bit, just similar to how we do like comfortable instead of comfortable. We like to reduce syllables where we can because it makes it more fluent, I guess, and that's just kind of the American speaking style. Thank you for that request. It's a good one. Okay, so Dana was asking, could I glide from to back and forth for a little bit so you can hear the movement between 2 vowels by a native speaker? Yes, definitely. So she's coming back to what we were talking about, for example, bed and bad. So she wants to know about and and how it sounds if you go back and forth. So bed, bad. It's a bad bed. The bed was bad. My hat on my head. Hopefully that helps you, and you can timestamp that and listen to it whenever you'd like to hear those 2 together. It's definitely, those 2 are definitely vowels that can be challenging to make a difference between the 2. I do teach about opening more, What you want to avoid is you don't want to get like too extreme in your opening because it's hard to get the jaw that open when you're really talking. So you want to use that to kind of feel and then work your way into doing it more with the tongue and some jaw opening, but it's about the tongue height as well. Thanks, Dana. Question about rural and rudimentary. So for rural, I'm going to tell you briefly, and then I'm going to suggest that you check out, I have actually 2 different videos for that word, rural. So it's an sound, starting with an R, and then my dark L. So really challenging, super challenging word. Trying and then and then rural, or roll, rural, figuring out where the challenge is and breaking down each piece is a good way to do it. And you can get, like I said, more details on that, a longer explanation in my video on rural. I'll put that in the comments after class today with the timestamp from 1457 for you. Okay, and then question, your other word was rudimentary. Rudimentary. So this is one where, again, we may have two options. It might be rudimentary or rudimentary, depending on if we reduce that syllable. The syllable stress is on the ment. There's our red tent vowel that we were just modeling for Dana. The first vowel, rude, is an oo, tense oo sound. So we probably have secondary stress there and primary stress there. Ruda. So this I is a schwa, or it might be an I. So either ruda or rude. You just want to be short, light, and unstressed on that syllable. A little more length here. Rudimentary, 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 rudimentary. I'm going to go with turi, with a two syllables there, rudimentary. But I think you may also find that Americans might say it like rudimentary, rudimentary, in which case rudimentary, rudimentary, rudimentary. Yeah, okay. So it's always going to be a true T. And sometimes when we have NT in a word, we drop the T out, but we don't in this case because the T is at the start of that syllable. Yeah, another challenging word. Thank you so much for that good suggestion. I'm sure that's helping other people as well. Okay, and also pronunciation. We did also just have a word of the day video on this, and I made a lesson on my website for you for pronunciation. So just watch out that when you do pronounce, you have the ow and the OU spelling, but pronunciation has none. So you want to avoid pronunciation, but rather pronunciation. Pronunciation, syllable stress is on the A syllable, pronunciation. Syllable stress and pronounce on the nounce. Again, you can check out the longer video on how to pronounce pronunciation that we did just recently cover, and I'll put that in the comments after class. Thank you. We have a request for pronunciation of tutor, withstand, and premature. All right, so for tutor, we have first syllable stress, tense oo, tutor, tutor. We use a flap here, sounds more like a D. And here's one of our ORs that says ER, so tutor. And then you also wanted to know about withstand. Withstand, second syllable stress. So my with is a little shorter, even though that may be challenging because I have to get that voiceless TH sound. Withstand. There's my black cat vowel that we were talking about at the beginning of class. Withstand, stand. And then our ND blend at the end. And then you also wanted to know premature. Premature has the stress on chur, and that sounds like a CH sound and an chur, premature, premature. We have a little bit of secondary stress on pre because we use the tense E sound here, pre, and then here's my unstressed schwa, premature, premature. I think British is more premature, so they'll have an first syllable stress and the F vowel, but let's take a quick look at that one in the dictionary. I always do like to model that even though I'm a native speaker, I'm pretty confident in my pronunciation, I still like to look things up to verify, and also sometimes there are more than one correct pronunciation for something, and I think that's really helpful to have as a resource. So there's a number of good online dictionaries. I like the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, partly because it shows me the British English and the American English. And so I want to show you, if we look up, for example, premature, we'll see that it shows both British. And so here we see, yes, they have the premature. They don't do the same R sound that we do. Oh, and I guess we have either premature with main stress on ture, or what's the other one here? Premature. Okay, so you can either say that Ture as premature. That sounds unnatural to me. Or premature. So I use ture, but yes, apparently you can also do premature. Let's hear them. I'll turn up the volume for you. So, like I said, I had one opinion about the pronunciation, and I find here's another way to do it.
Premature.
Or
premature,
or British.
Premature.
So different syllable stress. Okay, yes, thank you for that request, and for giving me the opportunity to verify and look something up in the dictionary like I always like to do. Okay, we have next request for the word a, and what the question is, should it be pronounced a or ah? This one, no, but we do pronounce it as So for the most part, I just recommend always using the schwa sound, a friend, a party, a person. I think it's the most natural way, and that's the correct pronunciation for this word, but you will hear Americans sometimes saying a. That's how we call the letter, and for some reason, sometimes we use a instead of when we're talking. There's no rule about it. This is the correct pronunciation. And for non-native speakers, I often will hear the a, and it sounds makes it sound non-native. So going for is better. But if you have the occasional a, and you hear Americans occasionally using a, you will hear that. So it's okay. But you want to aim for using vowel schwa when you're using for the word as in a video, a question, etc. Great. Next question. How to pronounce apparently and zucchini. So apparently, is first syllable stress unstressed then we have the air vowel, apparent, another schwa, parent, stop T, and then li, apparently. And zucchini, this is one that I always struggle to spell on the grocery list. So I'm going to use your question to help me spell it. 2 C's. Zucchini has stress on the key syllable. This first letter letter U says oo, zoo, just like the word the zoo, zucchini. So we have, you could maybe write this as more than one K sound, zucchini, but we really just glide it all together. So 1 K will do. The CH just says the K sound. This first letter I says E, and so does the second. So short, long, short, zucchini. Yes, I like zucchini, as I mentioned. It's often on the grocery list with the 2 C's, if I get it correct when I'm spelling it. All right, Dana wants to know, in my accent, does the first vowel in mirror sound like an I or an E? And do Americans occasionally pronounce mirror the same as mirror, especially when speaking faster? Okay, so she's asking about the word mirror, and I definitely think I use an ear, mirror, for that first E. So rather than mirror, I don't really ever use an I with an R. Mirror, I use an E in any case that could be that. You'll see that in the dictionary for the words like mirror, but for me, I use more of the tense, mirror. And then, yes, when I'm going fast, I look in the mirror. It is 2 syllables, mirror, but that's hard to say. And I do think sometimes it gets a little condensed to mirror. So it was a mirror. Yes, you'll definitely hear that. It's probably mostly people not pronouncing it quite correctly, but you can get away with just this one, I think. Especially if you're trying to say mirror and it's just like really cumbersome and sounds awkward, then that is a reduction that I think is probably acceptable. You just don't want to go too long on the vowel then. You wouldn't want to do mirror because, well, maybe that didn't sound too bad actually. Okay, let's see. We have so many great questions today. Thank you, guys. Halim wants to know about surgeon, oculist, and archaeologist. Sorry, I keep having to move my chair today. I can't quite get comfortable. All right, so surgeon just sounds like surgeon, the j sound. So you can write it like this: jun, vowel schwa, first syllable stress, surgeon, and oculist. We have this O says ah, it's stressed, ah. And then we have oculist. So oculist or oculist. I think ya is more appropriate because it's unstressed. So the schwa there. Just you want to note that there's a glide in this one, not aku, but aku or akya. Oculist. And then lastly, Liam was asking about archaeologist. So archaeologist. We have black cat vowel, archaea, stress on the ah syllable. So archaeologist. Archaeologist. I think that's also in my word of the day list, either coming up soon or I just recently covered it. But as I go back through and timestamp this class and add that to the comments for you, I will put a link for any additional videos I have for some of the words that you've been requesting. You see me going kind of fast today because I'd like to try to get to everybody's question. If I don't get to your question because we run out of time or somehow I missed it in the chat, I will go back through and try to get an answer to you in the comments later on. I know that happens occasionally. I think I saw that last week and I tried to cover those by answering you in the comments, but do come back and check the comments later on because you'll see more information and details for you there. Also, if we get big enough where I can't get to everybody's question in our Friday classes, of course, you can come back next week. You can leave comments and I'll add your requests to my word of the day lists. And for those of you who are channel members, we'll be covering additional questions for you in our weekly Sunday classes. So that's a good opportunity. If you aren't already a channel member, you can check that out. It's a way to get your questions answered quickly and to get videos made more quickly. So we have channel members can make requests at any point during the week on any video. And on Sundays, I cover all of their requests and questions live. And also, if you can't attend live, then I cover their words so they can watch the replay and get their answers. So that's a perk I've been trying to add to provide you with some good resources as channel members, as well as having some members only videos and lessons. Okay, so more questions. We have a question about the Latin abbreviation IE. Okay, so in other words, is how we use this. And we just say each letter. So we say I, for letter I, it's the I diphthong. And then E, we just say a tense E sound, I-E. I do have a video coming out next week about ETA. And I did just also talk about QAnon, where I was talking about when we have to say letter names, what we say. I do have a video called Pronouncing the Alphabet, which talks about the groups of letters, how we have E and C and D. That helps you categorize and group letters and know how to pronounce them. So IE, we just say that like that, the letter I and the letter E. So you can check out those resources. Question about the word xylophone. So this is a strange word spelled with X. Not very many words start with X in American English. Xylophone. So we have the Z sound. The letter Y says the diphthong I. First syllable stress. Xy, la. This O says schwa. And then phone is tense O. And the PH says F, just like the word phone. Xylophone. Okay, and then a request for interact. So I just said that in a way that's a little bit more correct than I normally would. Interact with a T. Americans will often leave that T out and say it more like interact. So you can choose either use your real T, your true T, interact, or leave it out, interact. That's how we often say words like internet, international. We glide over that T and basically it drops out. This act is a black cat vowel like ah. And also interact has last syllable stress. So quick on the inter or inner and longer on the act, interact. Great, thank you. Let's see. Question or comment, the problem comes when that A is followed by N. So I think what she's talking about is this black cat vowel when we add an N. Yes, that's the hardest one because we have to be open for the ah and then closed for the n. Our jaw closes and our tongue lifts. So we see this in words like man and hand. And that's where, as I was advising Dana, that if I really rely too much on opening, and it sounds unnatural and it's hard to get that closed. So when I do, for example, men versus man, my mouth is a little more open for the ah of man than it is for the eh of men, man. But it's a lot about how I'm shaping the tongue to make the two vowels. And when the ah and n are together, the ah gets a little bit nasalized, but I wouldn't try to do that intentionally. You don't want to sound like man, like really nasal. Just know that co-articulation means that your jaw might be slightly more closed and the sound is going to come out a little more nasal. Another thing to point out regarding that topic is that on the word can, if I'm stressing it like I can, then I'm going to use this ah vowel. But if I'm saying it as a helping verb, I don't really use that vowel. I don't say I can go. I say I can go. I can go. So it ends up sounding more like the eh of n, or even almost no vowel there at all. I can go. I can talk to you. I can do it. I do have a video about can and can't that can help you with that. Also a video about men and man. But you're right, that's a very good point that when the ah has some nasals, we do some little changes there in order to be able to co-articulate those sounds. Okay, we have a request for study, steady, and sturdy. So study, steady, sturdy. What we have here is just, of course, a difference for the vowels. Study has the schwa, central, study. Steady has the eh, which is our red tent vowel. So, and then sturdy has an so the UR says the ER sound. That's our vowel like in person and bird. For close words like this where it's hard to differentiate them, what I often suggest is find another word with that same vowel to pair it with these words so that you can really get solid on the vowel and you can have some anchor points. So for study, I might try, for example, much study or some study, so that might have my schwa, some study versus, for example, maybe ready, steady, or dead, steady. Keep my red tent vowel there. Ready, steady. And then finally, maybe perfect or sure, sturdy. Keeping my vowel consistent. Because if you look at words like much and ready and perfect, you don't have any trouble differentiating those, right? It's because the other sounds are so similar. So if I'm using much and study and keeping my sound the same, that's going to help me when I have to do study versus steady. Much study, dead steady. So that's a good, I think, a helpful technique when you're looking at those kinds of minimal pair words that you mentioned. Hopefully that helps you. Okay. We have, oh my goodness, so many questions. All right. I may not be able to get to everyone today. I will apologize in advance if I don't get to your question as I'm scanning through, if I miss it, or if we don't have time for it. I will be back on Sunday for our members class, so you can join and I'll talk about your questions there. Speaking of which, I'm going to answer some questions from channel members, and then I'll come back and get to some of the other questions that were asked. So Dana wants to know about timbre and meringue. Again, challenging spelling there. All right, so timbre has the a vowel, even though it's spelled with an I. This is definitely quite an exception. And then the RE actually sounds more like an ER. First syllable stress. I want to look that one up in the dictionary just to double check. I actually think I recently looked that one up for some other reason. Probably I was talking with somebody about their voice. So let's look it up and we can verify that I'm not giving you false information for timbre. Yes. Okay. So it is, as I say, black cat vowel and then the sound. So timbre, good. And then for meringue, we have an vowel, unstressed, and then rang is just like rang, like I rang the bell. Again, another a vowel with an ng. So just like the n, when I had man and hand, where it was nasalized, even more so with an ng sound. Rang, rang. It almost sounds like a different vowel. It is the same vowel. It's just the context of having the ng lifting in the back and the nasal sound makes it sound like somewhat different. Meringue, meringue. So mer. That mer, it almost doesn't even have an It's almost kind of like just going almost right to the R. Meringue, meringue. Okay, thank you, Dana, for those good words. Hopefully that helped you, and I said them many times, so you can listen and repeat. General question about improving pronunciation. I'm going to refer you back to last week and the week before. We talked about that topic in class, so just looking at listening and repeating, building from your accent error patterns, and working your way through identifying what patterns you have in your pronunciation and how to build those skills. Yes. Okay. We have a question for gives us versus give us. Gives us. So that gives us. So that basically sounds like it has the I vowel, a V, and then it's easier to do this if you put your Z kind of on the us, because we link these two. Gives us, gives us. Make sure you have the lip closure or the lip and teeth for gives us, versus give. What was your other one? Give us? Yeah, so for give us, it's just like give us your attention. That gives us a lot of enjoyment. Yeah, okay. Challenging combinations there, especially gives us, going from the V to the Z. Question about hedgehog. We have the ah vowel, so hog kind of sounds like this ah. Hedge, same as edge, we just have our j sound like letter J. Looks like that in the IPA, and our red tent vowel. Hedgehog. Hedgehog is a compound noun, so primary stress on the first syllable, but also a little bit of stress on the hog. So you don't want if it were unstressed, it would be like hedgehog or hedgehog, hedgehog. But hedgehog, we have a clear vowel. So we in these kinds of words like hot dog, baseball, spondees, or compound words, first syllable has main stress, second syllable has secondary stress. Hedgehog. Okay, and let's see. Request for my email. You can email me on my website, Christine, that's my first name, CHRISTINE, at speechmodification.com, or just go to speechmodification.com and you can use the contact form there to connect with me. Suggestion representing schwa as or e as e instead. So I'm not really sure what you're recommending. Are you preferring to see schwa like that or to see e like that? I tend to do both because a lot of people can't read IPA yet, and I'm trying to teach them as part of being able to learn the symbols. I use this inventive spelling that more closely represents the sounds to help people visualize. And I think that way, if I use both, then whichever one helps you can be more useful. If you have further clarification for your recommendation, I will definitely take it. Thank you. Oh, you're asking for IPA to portray the sounds. Yes, I do use a mix and both. And in my Word of the Day videos, you'll always see both, and in my longer other videos. In this class, I'm definitely using a mix. I apologize if it's hard for you to read that and you would prefer to read that. You also will have to read that for this sound. So yes, thank you for the feedback. Okay, so a request for conscientiousness. I'm going to refer you to last week's class. I'll put a little link there. We covered that in last class and also in a recent Word of the Day. Okay, sorry, I'm just getting caught up. So many comments that I'm a little behind. Request for pair, and pearl. So pair, like a pair of shoes, and pear, like the fruit, both have the air diphthong, which even when I want to do IPA, there's different systems for that. So some dictionaries will show air like that. Some use other portrayals. You could also show it like but I'll use this one. So pair and pair both have the air diphthong. And then for pearl, we have the plus an L. And so again, for in the IPA, you're going to see it like that if it's stressed, like that if it's unstressed. That's sometimes why just using is helpful. So pair and then pearl. One thing that you'll notice is to go from the to the ul, you end up with a little tiny kind of hidden schwa in there. Pearl. My video for world and girl will help you break down a word like pearl, but probably you're looking more at the spelling differences, and we just are looking at the air diphthong versus just a straight American sound. Thank you, Dana. Nice to see you. Hopefully I'll see you on Sunday as well, or if not live, if you have any requests as a channel member, let me know, and I'll cover those on Sunday for you. Okay, and then I'm going to do one last request, and then we're going to wrap up for today. And that's for the word yacht. This is, again, one where in the spelling we have extra sounds. So the CH sounds are silent. We just use a T. And the ya is a clear vowel. So IPA, yacht. First syllable stress. Thinking of... in addition, you'll often hear Americans will use a stop T at the ends of words. So yacht, they might say, or yacht with a released T. Okay, thanks so much. Wonderful questions today. We got a lot of different topics covered and a lot of challenging words. I can see why you would be asking about those words. If you find them difficult to bring into your speech, just break them down, practice them slowly, start using them in some short phrases, and work them into your speech. So for Mohammed, you were asking about improving pronunciation, I would say just working on building skills from a more basic level up through integrating into your speech is just slow, patient, steady work will help you improve your pronunciation. First thing is knowledge, knowing how something is supposed to be. Next is acquiring the motor habit so you can say it fluently and easily. Thanks so much for being a part of class today. I look forward to seeing you in tomorrow's Word of the Day class. I look forward to seeing channel members in our Sunday question and answer class. And I'll be back again next Friday with another live question and answer class for American English pronunciation. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye, guys. Thanks so much.